Animal Crossing New Horizons is quite obviously intended to feel comforting, by creating this loving, non-serious atmosphere that you can relax in. While the game isn't free of conflict, not by any stretch of the imagination, the better part of the experience involves just going around and being nice to your villagers, or choosing not to. But that isn't a fair point against the intended comforting atmosphere, because while it may ultimately be intended, the everyday relaxing atmosphere sets itself up for some strangely unsettling ideas. See, there's one item in particular that gives me this unplaceable sense of unease, like someone is watching me, waiting for me to step out of the safety of my little cartoon home. I wouldn't quite describe it as fear, but that certainly isn't an inaccurate description of it. So come with me, as I take a look at some of the most unsettling areas of Animal Crossing New Horizons. This item in question is simply titled, "What Was This Again?" You obtain this item through another one called Lost Item, which is something you can come across lying on the ground in random spots. The intended use of this item is to search for which villager it belongs to and return it to them. If the player doesn't return this item after 1 day has passed, it will transform into the "What Was This Again?" item. Now, a typical player would see this and think virtually nothing of it. The name makes sense, for 2 reasons. 1, it implies that the in-game character themselves has forgotten what the item is, and 2, if the player sees it, they might also forget where it came from, and they too might ask themselves, "What was this again?" The item serves its purpose properly, and it's unlikely that a new player will be able to figure out where it came from without looking it up. Additionally, the item is completely worthless at this point. You can no longer return it to the villager who lost it, and it cannot be used. It's regarded by the game as a trash item, the same as a tin can or an old boot obtained from fishing. This means that the only thing you can do with it now is throw it away at the Nook's Cranny. You can't even store the item in your house. You can put it out as a decoration, which is something that people have done, because the item in book form looks pretty cool, but other than that, there is really nothing you can do with it. I find something about this unsettling. The fact that this item is completely unusable, like some kind of glitch or error, like the game is taunting you, making a commentary on your procrastination because you forgot to return the item. Like the game is calling out you specifically, like it's breaking the 4th wall. You could say the game already kind of breaks the 4th wall whenever your character shows off a critter catch or a new DIY recipe, but I interpret this more as your character's internal monologue being fronted. In the case of this item, it feels like the game itself is pointing at you in a crowd of other players, addressing you by your full name and mocking you. The other trash items don't feel creepy because they're trash. This one's just cryptic. Now, I mentioned a particular trope in fiction. 4th wall breaks. The 4th wall refers to a one-way imaginary partition that separates the viewer and the characters in the story. The viewer can see through this wall, but the characters cannot. A 4th wall break just means that a character acknowledges the fact that they're in a story. Typically, a 4th wall break is used comedically. When a character looks at the camera and talks about the story they're in, it's unexpected, and therefore funny. But if you think about it, the concept of a 4th wall break is kind of creepy. A character only represents the ideas of the writer, and therefore cannot actually acknowledge the fact that they're in a work of fiction. But even if a character only gives the illusion of being a real person, that illusion can still be convincing. A 4th wall break fronts the ideas of the writer, breaking the illusion, breaking the 4th wall. When a character rhetorically acknowledges the story they're in, it's funny. But when a character turns slowly to look at the camera without another word before the next scene, it's unsettling. There's a dichotomy between the things in Animal Crossing that are unusual in an unsettling way, such as the "What Was This Again?" item, and those that are unusual in a happy, fun way, such as the gift balloons. When you see one of those balloons in the sky, it's kind of heartwarming, in the typical Animal Crossing way we all know and love. It's an unorthodox method of sending a gift masked by the fact that it's a gift. The gift is exciting and doesn't draw much attention to the fact that it's really quite strange to see a box tied to a balloon gliding through the sky. That realization happens naturally. In fact, these gifts are one of the first abstract features you see in the game. When I started playing, I saw one in the sky for the first time and I thought I might have found a super rare occurrence. And since you don't get a slingshot that early on, I was left curious, wondering what these things were and what their purpose was. Does that sound similar to another aforementioned item in the game? I think that the concept of lost items on their own are sort of comparable to the balloons. Only the balloons don't take a step further. They remain fun and charming whilst also unusual. The lost items take a step in the uncanny direction, and become the "What Was This Again?" item. But there's another item that is fundamentally unsettling on its own. The Pitfall Seed. The Pitfall Seed is an item that you use by burying it in a hole and waiting for unsuspecting villagers to fall in and get stuck. The main thing that sticks out about this item is the icon. It's a solid white sphere with a red exclamation point, almost like a glitched item that's not meant to be in the game. Like one of those old creepypastas that would scare you as a kid. You craft the item with tree branches and grass, so it's essentially just a classic sticks over a hole trap. But I can only wonder why it looks so cryptic. It looks like a placeholder icon, but I believe this is the finalized design they wanted to go with. And it's not the only game the item with this exact design has been in. Plus, the fact that you're meant to use the item for wrongdoing makes it more sinister. Now, these are just items. They seem to signify something greater, something far more threatening. But there is an Easter egg in the game that is not an item, but rather an event. And it feels far more of a threatening, downright cosmic horror-esque feature in the game. If you turn on a TV at 3:33 a.m., you will get a very strange message on the screen. An alien fades in and starts talking. It then cuts to a flying saucer and then back to the alien who continues talking. Normally this would be pretty cheesy, but the way it cuts from an alien standing in a white void to a close-up, and the distortion on the Animal Crossing language you're used to, it just feels uniquely unsettling, similar to the other items. If you listen to it and the villagers speaking side by side, it's different. You can tell the words, if you can call them that, are different, despite the obvious distortion. But also, there isn't any text box accompanying it, as if your little character in the game cannot understand the voice either. That is a fascinating attention to detail, which only makes it more creepy. And the fact that it's just an Easter egg and aliens don't come to your planet afterward or anything also makes it more creepy. Perhaps this message was received by the wrong planet. Maybe that's reading into it a bit much. Even without any lore to this message, it's just pretty creepy. Especially coming from the cute Animal Village Island farming game. Like I said, I think there are kind of two sides to this game. The cute, happy energy that makes up 95% of the content, and these strangely creepy areas that are much more uncommon. I don't even know if these things are intended to be unsettling. I would assume not, but I feel like it's not easy to just accidentally make something in such a cryptic fashion. But honestly, I'm a big fan of these weird little Easter egg type things. Stuff like that is a lot of fun in any game, and I think Animal Crossing does it really well. And if you're an Animal Crossing fan watching this video, you may have realized that I haven't talked about any of the other Animal Crossing games at all, only New Horizons. And that's because New Horizons is the only one I've ever played. If you can think of some stuff from the other games that have a similar vibe, let me know. And if I get enough, maybe I'll make a follow-up or something. But this time, I've taken a look at the strangest areas of Animal Crossing New Horizons. I hope that perhaps I've scared and or creeped you out a bit. Have a good one.